I'd like to welcome Mr. Lam and her colleagues to this meeting. This is an open meeting. We have some new members joining us. Two new vice chairs, Mr. Chen Chen-ying, Ronick Chen, welcome. Mr. Chi Ming, vice chair, welcome. And Dr. Chen Daniel, welcome. Mabel Chen, welcome. Mr. Yuan Kwan, welcome. Mr. Daniel Mui, the acting SG, and Madam Lau, Deputy Secretary General. On behalf of the IPCC, I'd like to express grateful thanks to Mr. Richard Yu, the former SG, for his contribution to the IPCC over the years. We like to have these duly recorded. We have a pretty heavy agenda today. First of all, have a look at the minutes of the last meeting. The minutes have been circulated to members. Do I hear any proposed amendments here and now? If not, the minutes are confirmed. We have invited from the police senior superintendent of the PPRB to brief us on the new initiatives on the part of the police. And also of the 52 recommendations, some of them have been taken on board. And I'd like to hand you over to the PPRB. Thank you, Chairman. All along, the PPRB has been maintaining communication with the members of the public, and we are responsible for the dissemination of information, and the PPRB is playing a pretty significant role. The IPCC has published the thematic report, and one of the recommendations is the dissemination of information. And there are various recommendations to improve the services. So we have the pleasure to have invited Madam Jie Choi-yan, Senior Superintendent, to brief members on the PPRB and how we can take advantage of the social media, use innovative measures to disseminate the information in multiple ways. And members will be in a position to find out the progress of how we follow up the recommendations. Chairman and members, I am Senior Superintendent Jie Choi-yan. In this thematic study report, there are 52 recommendations. 10 of them have to do with the dissemination of information and the relationship with the media. I'm grateful to the IPCC for the opportunity to brief members on the 7 recommendations raised by the IPCC, and we have improved the measures. We have added new measures to beef up the dissemination of information. There are 2 purposes in this regard. The first one is to enhance transparency. We will use layman's language to explain to the members of the public the police operation and policies. We have live streaming to show what's the situation like on the ground, and we're enhancing the transparency of the police work. Second, we have to make clarifications. There are lopsided reports in order to create or foment hatred against the police and undermine support for us. So we have to seize the narrative and rebut the unfounded allegations. And we have to be quick and sharp in our operation in order to put things right, because otherwise people might be misled into believing that what is wrong is correct. We have been trying to be innovative. We have launched some innovative measures, and we are really ahead of the curve. And we present really detailed information in an interesting way. We also achieve best result online and offline. Like, for example, we have the animal protection kind of information, and online we take advantage of the social media for dissemination. So online and offline, we launch our offensive in order to focus our attention to achieve the best possible results and to get in touch with the widest possible audience. I'm going to recount from the beginning what the PPRB has been doing in the recent past. In terms of innovation, one of the key examples is the live streaming of Offbeat. We create our own production. We cover a wide spectrum of subjects. We invite different formations and different divisions to appear on our program. We have the emergency unit, the airport special police, and the rapid response team. We address the audience's questions. We also create some interesting short clips to disseminate anti-crime messages like phone scams and also the romance scams. We also make appeals for the members of the public to furnish us with information. It started in October last year. It's broadcast at 5 on Thursday. We have already had 20 episodes. This is a cross-platform program on Weibo, YouTube. They're also available. We have hundreds of thousands of audience, hitting 1 million at one point. Our commissioner has been setting a pretty good example. Within a single year of his assuming the post, he has given 30 interviews. The 3 deputy commissioners are also giving interviews. They're proactively addressing public inquiries. They're facing the public and explaining to the members of the public what they are concerned about and to put things right. And that enables the public to understand the government's or the police's position. They are setting a truly commendable example. Second, together with 20 sectors and professions, we have set up a community platform, social welfare, community organization, youth groups are part of this scheme. We use the group chats and disseminate the information to the relevant sectors. Information like anti-crime messages and clarifications and matters of concern to the different sectors. Say, for instance, there are some young people who had were made to take naked photos and they were blackmailed. Now we have this 4-frame comical strip to brief the public of on the MO and how they can protect themselves. We also send these comic strips to parents as well as principals so that they would be able to get to grips with the ways in which they can protect the young people. When major incidents occur, we will notify the community organizations about the latest and what's happening on the ground. The idea is to minimize the policing work's impact on the community. so that the members of the public would understand the whole purpose of our operation, and they will be able to get to grips with the traffic arrangement and to avoid setting foot on areas where actions are happening. And we're seeking the public support. We will be widening this out to get in touch with more sectors and to enhance communication. This is in response to IPCC's recommendation of enhancing liaison with the community. Third, the three major statistics. The left one is the posting on Facebook. In 2019, it was 1,000. In 2020, it's gone up to 2,100, double the number. On 27th of May last year, there were calls for flash blocking of the roads to paralyze the traffic. On that particular day, we have issued 30 postings. We issued the postings in a really rapid way. And some of the postings were 3 minutes apart. We post the information as well as the graphics to hammer home the message. We also have exclusive information, and this information is carried on a lot of the media. It is not as easy as it is said, because we have to make sure the information is 100% correct. We have to race against the clock. We have to liaise with various divisions to get hold of the truth. And we have to verify the veracity of the posting. We cannot afford to make any mistakes. So we are facing really tremendous pressure. So we're pulling in the same direction. We're very passionate about getting the job done right. Second, about the, we had 130 case summary. We have seen an increase in 2020 to 380. We took the initiative to disseminate the information on the case summary, and we explained to the public our policing work and the purposes, and in order to enhance the transparency of the policing work. We have so many colleagues who have to appear on camera. They don't feel really comfortable. They are under particular pressure. So we have arranged for some training to become spokesmen, for them to learn to explain complicated cases in a professional way, in a simple, easily comprehensible way. Like we would avoid the jargon that we use internally. We would use layman terms that are easily comprehensible, and we use comparison, we use analogies in order to get the messages across more effectively. Third, the right-hand corner. We also wrote to the media organizations. In 2019, there were 30 letters. In 2020, it's gone up to 120, a threefold increase. There are certain media organizations that are quoting anonymous sources, and they may use biased headlines to disseminate erroneous information. We will not be keeping quiet about it. We have issued more than 100 letters to set the record straight, to help the public to understand the truth.
So the fourth point is that we are synchronizing our activities, and then we have set up the team into 2019. Firstly, we have only one frame, and then later on we develop into 4 frames, and then showing the place in 4 different places, indicating the time so that people can look at it easier. And last year, we have almost 300 times of this live broadcast. And in the major events, when we are doing our duty, we are providing different perspective and more information for the public to have a better grasp of the situation. And at the same time, other than the briefing, the background, and then the actions taken, we will have a roundup in the headquarters and to summarize the general situation. And now I have prepared a 1-minute clip for you to better understand how we proceed with this.
新駕駛。喺紅磡海底隧道方面，喺8點半左右，有人刻意忘駛車輛，現場交通曾經受阻，警方截查有關車輛調查，疏導現場交通。
就係第一個時候。直播咁樣係咪
？So we are actually live casting the situation for all the POEs. We will make a risk assessment before, if needed, we will arrange live cast, and then taking from the perspective of prevention. And I think that this will help the public to avoid locations that might be of high risk to accidents and other incidents. If we found that there are the fake news and the misinformation, that we would immediately respond. For instance, there is the web media saying that there is a search by our police, and then we immediately respond to that. And then this is the clip. I want to show you how we did it.
質疑警方咧係用唔同性別人士、唔同性別嘅警員咧，係為其他性別嘅疑犯咧就搜身嘅。咁其實現場指揮官已經立即解釋啦，男嘅疑犯咧就由男警搜身，女嘅疑犯咧只會由女警搜身。咁警察咧一定係用相同性別人去搜身嘅，一定係會咁做嘅。記者小心啦，因為呢個跨度係高低不平嘅，咁所以咧麻煩你哋咧就小心自己安全。另外有啲喺記者後邊咧有大嗌嗰啲啊，唔該唔好嘈啦，好嘛？因為我睇唔到係邊個嚟㗎，睇唔到邊個嚟好嘛？睇到邊個嚟啊？
好多時候。
Very often, and then people are very irresponsible and then actually make false allegations on the police force. So we really need to take very prompt and quick actions. The fifth, we have 5 major social media platform, and there are the 1.2 million followers. Last year, we have already posted 6,100 different information. We are doing all this on the different platforms for the different audience. So that we will be preparing the different post with the special style and then the special contents to target our different audience. And like Facebook, and then the audience actually has a wide age range. So we have video, we also have text post. And for some announcement on the press release, we will also put it on Facebook and Instagram. Instagram are mainly targeting the young generation, so we often have more lively and then beautiful pictures to attract them. The third is YouTube. And then this will be mainly videos, and Weibo targeting the mainland audience. They love Hong Kong film, and Twitter is facing the international audience. So the major content in English. Recently, we are introducing the Lunar New Year and some information on the prevention of crime. And so we have a diversity of content, as I just mentioned. Other than the case briefing and clarifications, we also add the educational elements. For instance, being responsible and scams. And for instance, we have actually how to do it from yourself. And we have 1.1 series on the police force as well. So this is a clip on the 101 series, and on how we introduce different simple information to the public in a more lively way.
上次介紹 EU 大家應該比較熟悉㗎啦。其實 EU 咧係處理一啲緊急嘅999求助個案，即係俗稱接 call 啦。咁佢哋會處理火警啊、暴力人士個案等等嘅。咁其實佢哋若果係冇 call 接嗰陣時，佢哋會進行啲反罪惡嘅巡邏。而佢最 signature 嘅就係呢頂貝雷帽啦。你睇下戴得我幾有型。 短短幾秒，其實我已經換咗衫啦。你係咪覺得一模一樣咧？其實係有唔同㗎。其實 PTU 機動部隊同埋 EU 嘅裝備係非常之相似，但係細心一睇啦 ，PTU 嘅武徽咧後面有紅黃相間嘅報章，而行動上嘅需要，我哋都着得戰術靴同埋束起咗褲腳㗎。咁公眾方面啦，佢哋會進行一個反罪惡嘅巡邏，而喺大型活動佢哋做一啲人群嘅管理活動啦，甚至乎係處理啲應變嘅突發事件。而家嚟講，佢哋係唔會接 call 㗎。咦，1分鐘又到咯，我哋下次再見啦。
如果大家想知道我而家新村嘅軍裝巡邏小隊嘅制服有啲咩特色，同埋軍裝巡邏小隊有啲咩職責，咁就繼續支持同埋收睇我哋警隊101分鐘啦。
So this is 1 minute. In the 2019 August to January 2020, we have held 65 press conference at 4 p.m. The longest one is lasts for 3 hours. In all this press conference, we will try to explain the police stand and also information on the major cases. And in face of all these challenges and difficulties, we have accumulated a lot of experience. For instance, in the scandal on the MTR, the Prince Edward Station, we have explained it times and again, but still there are the scandals and rumors against the police. You can look at this picture, and here we are with other authorities like the hospital authority, and then to explain from different perspective on the whole incident. We thank a lot on IPCC's advice, and then in cooperation with the Government Information Service, we have already launched the mechanism on the cross-departmental press conference. In the future, if there are a lot of inquiry from the media and on cases when we have a repeatedly clarification, this mechanism will be triggered, and then we will explain from different professional perspective to give a more detailed and then in-depth explanation on the particular case. The seventh is the media, and also the information on the net is actually mirror of the public. PPRB will follow very closely 724, and then taking note of the media coverage on the public. And we will try to understand what the media and the public want to know. We will keep a very close eye on the media and social media, on anything that is related to the police, on the post that is relevant to us, and then if there are misleading and misinformation reports, we will immediately respond, and so that we can make clarifications as soon as possible, and then to gauge more media support. Say, for example, this case in March, and there is a case when there is a guy who is holding a knife and try to rob the bank, and then some people make a short video and then post it on the net, and the people just don't know what actually happened, and then they are just like viral and then spread to the whole public. And then we make 3 prompt steps. First is to understand the situation, and then the third actually is to promptly respond. And in the afternoon, in Twitter, Facebook, and Twitter, and then we make posts, and we also post the picture of the knife. And in anticipation of POE, the PPRB will also kick off the central mediation coordination mechanism. So this series of actions is to respond to your recommendation on the monitoring on the media, and then cracking down on fake news, and to eliminate actually any the scandals and then speculations. We have printed 80,000 offbeat bulletins. You can see that the one on the left is about the difficulties and challenges the police force is facing in face of the media. And the one in the middle is published in September last year, is about the stories. And the latest one is on the right, is about how to find the truth. And this is on how the police actually crack down on the fake news. We have tried to explain how our stand and how we work. All this bulletin is not for internal use. We also distribute in the communities. For instance, the one in the middle, we distribute to vet clinics and also the two animal groups and organizations. And the latest one, we also distribute to youth centers and also schools. We have all the 3 copies here for you today, and then you can take a look at each of them, 9. In the past year, we have proactively contacted 9 government departments, community leaders, and also professional groups, and made 21 video education clips. And the first is with Dr. Lam. He's from the medical and health department. He's from the forensic medical sector. And the second is Iman from a mosque, and then he explained to us the Ramadan of the Muslim sector. And then all these clips are made actually responding to the issues the public has interest in. And then we hope that we can explain more in better detail of how we take on different situations, and then so that the public will know about our us more, and then to enhance our transparency. All these clips could be actually found in our Facebook and also Twitter. You can also visit our website in the PPRB and also the government websites. So now we are at 10. From the 2019 to February this year, we have already issued 110 Facebook posts, and then to crack down on fake news immediately. And the one on the right is about a fake news saying that our staff is only enjoying themselves, paying chest while they are on duty. The second is very clear that this police is searching on the primary school students, but in fact, this actually the young girl is seeking assistance from our staff. And the third is saying that our staff is stealing from a store, and then that's the cook. But in fact, that this is a fire extinguisher. And the last one, they said that our staff is actually taking a cigarette while on duty. But we actually find out the truth and say that this is a tube for water. So in fact, that right now that we cannot tell the fact from a picture. And then sometimes that they just actually make one picture and telling different stories. So under all these circumstances, we need to take prompt actions to crack down on the fake news, to stop it from disseminating widely in the public. As a matter of fact, most of this the fake news have attract most of the share and also the comments. After 0 to 10, you might ask, PBRB has what to do with us. First of all, it's about cracking down on the misleading information and misinformation. Mostly, for the third party who don't know the fact, they might just look at one picture and make complaints. So that when we respond promptly and then to provide the right information, then we can prevent unnecessary complaints.
Second, we have to get the facts right and understand multiple angles. Previously, the public could only rely on the media for the information. Now we have the live streaming. We are getting right behind the operation to get across the message so that the public will understand how difficult it is in our operation. And the members of the public would have more information to do their own analysis. Third, to rebuild confidence. Public support would be instrumental to our effective law enforcement work. So the PPRB will be discharging its duty to rebuild the relationship with the members of the public. Finally, I'd like to thank the IPCC for all the invaluable recommendations. We will be putting our finger on the pulse of the members of the public and address public inquiries in layman's language, and to secure public support and confidence. We will get to grips with public opinions and dispel rumors and stamp out fake news so that the truth will be out. We will be redoubling our efforts to make sure that we will be able to address the public concerns in a rapid and specific way, and to get in touch with more members of the public. Finally, let me give ourselves a bit of a plug. If you haven't followed us on the social media, I'd like to invite to scan the QR code. You have a copy in front of you. If you can follow our news, you will have the latest information on our fingertips, and you will also do us a favor by stepping out and clarifying the fake news. And the tips on anti-deception is also very important. I'm sure that the QR codes are available on your website, and I think we can. Is it pplb.gov.hk? Is that right? We have got this ready, and members will be given a page of QR codes each. Thank you very much. I'm sure there are questions from around the table. Yes, please. Chairman, thank you. Thank you very much, Chief Superintendent, for the presentation on the PPRB's approach. I'm also glad to see that in our thematic study report, our recommendation regarding the social media and also the monitoring of the social media, you have done a lot of work on the ground, and you have taken on board a lot of our recommendations. Arising from your presentation, I'd like to put two questions here. First, you said you want to get things right. You want to be fact-based, rebut all the rumors. There are certain allegations that are really puzzling. I'm not sure why people are subscribing to these. You said that your approach is to monitor the social media for the fake news. My first question is this. You have the small group now during the FOO social events. Undeniably, you must make special arrangement. You must be monitoring the situation on a regular basis. But going forward, in absence of any social events, and you're not going to stop your work, and what's going to happen to this team of officers? How do they go about monitoring the social media? What yardstick are they going to be adopting to monitor the situation? It's going to be 24/7 or what in their monitoring work? Second, now for these kind of work, we need to have resources on the part of the police. you have a whole series of measures. Has the PPRB increased the level of manpower and resources in order to achieve the initiatives, the programs that you're setting out to do? Thanks very much for the questions. First, about public opinions. Indeed, on a 24/7 basis, we are keeping tabs on public opinions. We have various means. We have a newsroom, also around-the-clock operation. We do take inquiries from the media, and that is, that will give us a bit of hints. When the media are putting questions, then they will know something is brewing. And also, we are monitoring the social media platforms. If there are questions that generate enormous amount of debate, then we know what's going to happen. And we also have other tools available for us to keep on top of the information. We also have built up a wealth of experience. You mentioned the criteria, the yardstick. Honestly, in some cases, we need to rely on our gut feelings. We monitor how intense the debates are, and we need to have some sensitivity as to whether something will snowball and get bigger. If there are certain issues that are really sensitive, then we'll have to start the three-step approach. Resources, right? You looked at the chart, we saw these multiple increases, and certainly would require a lot of manpower. Honestly, in the PPRB, we haven't seen an awful lot of increase in manpower, a very minuscule increase to be precise. We have revamped our way of doing things in order to utilize the resources that much more productively. Like we coordinate online and offline sources to achieve the maximum results. We have re-engineered our procedures in order to achieve the maximum result. The mindset is also important. Society is becoming more accommodating, they're more forgiving, and they allow us more room to do our job. And indeed, my colleagues are really passionate about their jobs. Given the finite resources we can achieve what we set out to do. I'd like to put a question to the senior echelon. This is a welcome piece of news, but I think sustainability is going to be very important. What about the senior echelon? The PPRB is ramping up their work in monitoring the news. How determined are you that you're going to be keeping this on going forward? Thanks very much for your question. I can tell members that we are acutely aware that the police professional work should be understood by the members of the public. Now, to this end, to enable the public to understand our work and for us to protect the members of the public, communication will be crucial. So in the recent past, like Senior Superintendent Jay said, we have changed our strategies. We haven't seen a tremendous amount of increase in manpower. Resources are tight. We have 30,000 members, and we do need resources for every area. But the PPRB has optimized and re-engineered the procedures, and we are able to disseminate the information to the members of the public. In particular, those who are on the receiving end of fake news and untrue reporting, we are able to put things right, we are able to rebut all these rumors. I can assure you that the senior echelon of the police force will continue to do what we are doing right now. Other than, if we don't have to increase the resources tremendously, we are prepared to improve our ability to disseminate the information to the members of the public. A couple of minor questions. You mentioned the live streaming, and you rely on the social media to disseminate the information, like Facebook and so on, is that right? Mainly Facebook and YouTube. We live stream on these channels. You said that if there is erroneous information, you'll be writing to the organization for clarification. Will there be any rectification or any correction on the part of the recipient? Or is it the case that they just file away the letter? Or will they be clarifying the information after receiving your letter? As I said earlier, we have written 100 letters or more to various media organizations. They never deign to reply us. But that's only expected, isn't it? Right, third, you said you've set up so many chat groups, and you mentioned the education sector. What chat groups from the education sector maintain liaison with you? Is it the principal organization, the PTU, or what kind of organization maintain communications with you? Now, Rebecca mentioned that Mr. Siu has a working group on community engagement, and he does maintain liaison with the Principals Association, and this is one of the organizations we talk about. I am concerned that some principals receive the information and they may be responsible enough to filter down the information, but that's not happening to all principals. So how can you make sure that the information will percolate down to the students themselves? Now we have the JPC, which is really a vast network, and will you take advantage of the Junior Police Corps to disseminate the information which will set the record straight? Or are you going to be availing yourself of this channel? Thanks very much for the suggestion. You mentioned the JPC, and coming up, we're going to be having the JPC app, and that's an added channel for us to maintain connection with the young people. And that's one of the channels there. We also liaised with the Education Bureau. They have a website which connects with all the schools in Hong Kong. All the schools are part of this network, and we are taking advantage of multiple channels to hammer home the message. I agree with you that the information should not be stopping us at a certain level. The wider we can get in touch with, the more beneficial it will be for the young people. Chairman, all IPCC members and observers should have a chat group connecting with this so that we can receive all the correct information.
Thank you for the Vice Chair's suggestions. Mr. Yu, well, first of all, thank you, PPRB, for all your hard work, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. I think this is very useful. I'm rather curious whether it is Facebook or other social media. Will PPRB respond to those comments, etc., on the post? And is there a team working on it? Just now you said that PPRB have not actually had any budget for the financial year. So do you have enough people to respond to those comments and questions? Well, for the first question, I just mentioned about the offbeat live. And every Thursday at 9, when we do the live, there is a lot of actually posts, and then we respond them directly on in that particular moment. And then, for instance, when we interviewed the special police in the airport, and then there are the immediate questions on this interview. So we will, in fact, ask the questions directly to our interviewee. And then also we have our editor, that the editor will respond to those posts also. And then, this is really very stressful in terms of human resources. Well, we can do that when we are doing live, but I don't think that we can handle it on the 24-hour kind of information dissemination. And just now you show us there are the pictures on the Facebook on the fake information. And I think that, well, that you really need to respond to those, right? But yes, we cannot well, respond to those immediately. Well, for individual cases, since there are too numerous, we can't do that. Well, we will make clarifications on our platform. Sometimes it's not just the media who will be able to catch those clarifications. Other people will also disseminate our information and also the items. Wilson, first of all, thank you, Senior Superintendent Chair. I have two questions. Last year, as you summarize by 0 to 10, which one is the most challenging? And secondly, and as we all said, of course, that the IPCC will give our full support to your work. And then I think that we share the same mission. And I just want to know what are the new initiative you have so that we can actually respond more promptly. And the most challenging, thank you for your questions, as I just mentioned, is when you need to have a very prompt, strong, and accurate response. I think that that is very challenging. Yeah, to keep up with integrity, we need to be correct. We cannot make mistakes. And I think that while the consequence will be worse if your response is not correct, so the damage is very serious. So we really need actually to check on the situation, and we need to triangulate the fact. We need to find other information to verify the situation. So the process is really very challenging. We need to be quick. We need to be actually exact and then to the point and strong. And in the past, we work as one. And then actually, they always seek for excellency. And I think that this is really one of the most impressive things. The second, what are the new projects in the pipeline? I think this is even more challenging. Maybe you are already aware that in the past year, as I just mentioned about the clarification and other activities, we also have other publicity. We need to serve the society and then to reestablish the trust relationship. We have make the MTV with a song and then also the video. And in the future, we will put more focus on the society and to reestablish our relationship with the community at large. Thank you. Thank you for your introduction. We hear your report, and then they are really successful, particularly on the stemming out of fake news. I personally am more interested on the proactive messages you try to bring forth. For instance, the offbeat bulletin and live, and then 101, etc. And you need to be very clear about your audience. And I just wonder if you have made a kind of survey on the age groups on your audience, or that you have conducted some focus group survey to understand better the diverse audience that you are targeting at, and then to know the interest. And I think that it will serve your message better and more effective. Thank you for your question. For sure, you correctly point out how we work so many with such limited resources. We are very targeted on our market. We have 5 social media platforms, so we will work on the market segmentation. But for instance, we have different packages for the different audience. For instance, as you said, for the young people, they might like more the visual, and then for the elderly, they might need more information on scams, etc. So this is how we work on those different platforms. Well, my follow-up, yes, you have done that. You have tried to understand the different segments and then target on their interests. I think this is very good. Thank you. Any other information? Okay. Thank you very much, Senior Superintendent Ms. Jia. Now we'll move on to the second item of our agenda. Is the figures of IPCC. Sam. Chair and members, I just want to report on the overall complaints. In 2020, we received 1,211 reportable complaints. Compared to 2019, 1,643, there is a decrease of 432 cases. And the latest, the first 2 months of 2021. In the first 2 months, we received 185 reportable case complaints. And then compared to the same period in 2020, 487, there are 2 cases less. And in the first 2 months, we have received 65 complaints through the unsatisfactory mechanism, and there are the 4 cases less than last year. And now, I'd just like to move on to the categorization of complaints. In the first 2 months, among the 185 reportable cases, minor allegation are the majority. That is those within the red circle. That includes negligence of duty, misconduct, and then offensive language, and it's altogether 177. 95.7% of the total. And others are like abuse of authority, threats, and assault. And about the minor allegation, and you can see that within the red circle, the green part is the negligence of duty. There is a total of 114 cases, 61.6%. And the yellow part is misconduct and impoliteness. There are 62 cases and 33.5%. There's only 1 offensive language and 0.5%. And within the 177 minor allegation, compared to last year's 142, there is an increase of 35 cases. And for the serious allegation, the gray part is assault, and 4, and the deep blue is 1, And then the light purple is 3, is the abuse of authority. There's no complaints on the fabrication of evidence. And compared to last year, there is 37 cases less. Now is the first 2 months of the complaints categorization and compared to the same period in 2020. And the negligence of duty is 114, and then there is a 39 case more compared to 2020. And the misconduct, there is a very slight increase of 1 case from 61 to 62. And offensive language, there is 5 cases less. We only have 1 case this year. Assault is a drop of 19 cases from 23 to 4 cases. And threat from 4 to 1 case, 3 cases less. It's like a 75% abuse of authority, dropping from 14 to 3, less 11 cases less, and 78% less. Fabrication of evidence is from 4 to 0 in the last 2 months. That's all I'd like to report on the overall complaints we receive. About the fugitive bill related complaints, I will do the report, Chair and members. And until the 5th of March, IPCC CAPO received a total of 1,950 cases, and the complainants is 9,141, and the notifiable complaints is 1,329, and reportable complaints is 621 cases, and then 676 complainants. And for the reportable complaints, minor allegations and more, and a total of 374 cases, 60.2%. And the blue part is misconduct, 995. Negligence of duty, 109 cases. Impoliteness is 43 cases and 6.9%. Rudeness, 15 cases and 2.4%. Offensive language, 11 cases and 1.8%. And police procedure is one case on police procedure, 0.2%. And serious allegation accounts for 247 cases and 39.8%. And on assault is the gray part, 112, 18.1%. And the pink one is unnecessary use of authority, is 121 case. And the orange part is threat, 12 cases. Fabrication of evidence is 2 cases and 0.3% of the total. Now it's about how we handle the cases. Amounted to 621 reported cases and 674 complainants. We have already contacted 80% of the complainant, and 185 prefer full investigation, and 146 withdraw, and 71 is being handled under examination, and 74 classified as not consumable. 52 has not yet decided how to deal with, and 10 complainant will choose to resolve it informally. The remaining 138 provide no response whatsoever to the police force. These are all related to the fugitive bill revision complaints.
First Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. About the FOO-related complaints, the IPCC has received 446 investigation reports from CAPO. There are 67 that sub judice and work is not going on. There are 108 and that are being investigated. In scrutinizing these investigation reports, we find a lot of cases the police fail to contact the complainants, or they fail to get cooperation of the complainants, and the cases dragged on for a whole year. They ended up not pursuable. I'd like to hear from the police their views in this regard. Second, there are 108 cases that are pending investigation. What is the progress so far? Has been taking such an inordinately long time. Let me see the second question first. Like the 108 cases, most of them involve the authorized person, the lawyers, the district councillors. They have to get in touch with the complainants. They respond to our requests, but they fail to arrange for the complainant to give statements. There are some other SJ cases that's under sub judice cases. After the legal proceedings have been completed, we will reopen the cases. There are indeed some cases where we find it difficult to contact the complainants. So these cases, we will deal with them rigorously in order to complete the investigation as soon as possible. Under the IPCC ordinance, is there a time frame if you drag on like this, you don't get the cooperation, they can't be bothered to respond, and they've been sitting there, is not good for anybody at all? Will there be any time frame for you to bring this to a close? Right, for the FOO-related cases, many of them are sensitive because of social atmosphere. So when dealing with the FOO cases, we would be more cautious. We would take more steps. Normally, for instance, we would just ring up twice or write to the complainant twice. If we don't get the response, we will call this unpursuable. Vice Chair, some of the cases involve sensitive organizations, so we would tread more carefully. I fully appreciate that it would take a little bit longer for some cases, but we would look at the situation and try to complete the investigation as soon as possible. The legal provisions, the legal advisor, please. Chairman, thank you. Earlier, at joint working group meeting, we explored this issue with Senior Superintendent Chan. Under the law, there is no time frame per se for dealing with the cases. But I'm sure that we cannot allow these cases to drag on ad infinitum. So we have to look at the reasonableness, whether we have taken reasonably practical measures to get in touch with the complainants. We are liaising with the CAPO and also Senior Superintendent Chan. And I think we can offer some reasonable time frame in terms of the contact with the complainants. And under the law and under the complaints manual, we should be able to deal with this. I'm sure at the working level, we will continue to cooperate with Superintendent Chan. SG, Chairman. The Secretariat and also the Serious Complaints Committee are very concerned about this. We fully appreciate that CAPO might find it very difficult. Let me cite you some examples. There are two organizations that are acting more like an agent to handle the complaints. In the past year, scores of letters have been issued and many calls that were placed with these organizations, but still there was no response. We do appreciate the difficulties. When dealing with FOO-related cases, on average, it takes us some 7 months. 7 months' time. 50% of the cases could have been dealt with in 6 months, but in some cases we spend more than 12 months. I fully appreciate what Simon said. they would be prepared to be more cautious. But I think at a certain point in time, we have to get this sorted out. And we will liaise with CAPO. I think at a certain point, we have to bring these to a close, because otherwise that will be dragging on for too long. Statistically, we have to be more specific. From the figures, it seems that we have been waiting for a long time. Indeed, there are some other reasons. I think we have to make this clear. Chairman, if we allow this to drag on ad infinitum, it would not be fair to the IPCC, and nor would it be fair to the CAPO, because these are cases arising from the FOO, and we don't want to give the perception that we are dragging our feet. Right? I understand the CAPO's consideration. The SGE mentioned the two organizations. In fact, we are discussing with the Secretariat and see how best we can complete the investigation. We will maintain close liaison. For these organizations, they must present the power of attorney, because otherwise it would be hard for us to deal with it. I've chatted with the Secretariat. I think we have to follow up on these. Thank you. Thanks very much. Any further questions there? All right, then let's press on to the next item. Update on the 52 recommendations and the progress thereof. Mr. Lau from the police, please. Or Madam Lau, sorry. In the thematic study report, and there are 52 recommendations, the 5 working groups have been following up on the issues. And in February, we have reported the progress. Towards the end of February, the task force also submitted a report to the CE. At the last joint meeting, we have already reported 10 recommendations that have been completed and 24 new initiatives. As to the third phase report, it covered from November to February all the 16 recommendations that have been completed and 4 recommendations that we have achieved progress. For the 16 recommendations, there are 12, 13, 18, 19, 21, 25, 27, 28, and 20, 29, 31, 32, 42, 43, 46, 50, and 51. There are 4 recommendations that we have achieved pretty good progress, number 11, 14, 36, and 37. Together with those recommendations that have been completed, for which new initiatives have been launched, as of now, we have completed 26 recommendations, i.e., of the 52 recommendations made, we have completed half. 49 new initiatives have been launched, and the progress is satisfactory. Members might wish to refer to Annexes 1 to 3 for the details of the new initiatives. For the third report, for the 25 initiatives, they cover 4 areas. First, dissemination of information and relationship with the media, and the measures include the PPRB liaise with a PR company to put together a training package for spokesmen for the senior inspectors. In order to disseminate the information on a regular basis, we would have communications and meetings between the police and the media organizations. The second one is the THA, temporary holding areas. On the 25th of January this year, we have announced the internal guidelines for the THA, and the police stations designated as THA, we will put together all the instructions, and within this quarter, we have completed procurement and installation of new facilities to make improvements there. On the 4th of February this year, the CAPO has arranged for the chairman and 16 members and the Secretariat of the IPCC to visit the THA in Hong Kong, which has been upgraded, and members were shown all the equipment, the manpower, and all the equipment facilities to enhance the quality of service. Third, the operational arrangement, and this takes up most of the measures. There are 19 measures there, and there are 3 aspects there. First, we will maintain communication with the events organizers for the large POEs. The PPRB will disseminate the operation information through the social media platform. And in the notice of no objection, we will specify a designated contact person, and our officers will be on hand to make sure that there will be close communications between the 2 sides. In the light of our experience, we have also put together a training package for the PCROs. We also train the technical units for the members of the public to have an escape route in the case CS gas is used. Also, the coordination of internal command. We will deploy senior and experienced officers to become the consultants, strategic consultants or technical consultants. They will be posted at the command post to offer input on the tactical operations and the deployment of officers in response to the changing situations on the ground. We've also optimized the 999 center. We have enhanced the deployment ability. We procure new technologies and mock trial to enhance communication and also the deployment arrangement in response to major POEs. We also have better coordinating abilities. Third, we also enhance the coordination across different departments. In the light of the potential conflicts, we have formulated the guidelines to minimize the chances of conflicts taking place. The electrical complex and the PHQ have also beefed up their measures. On the MTR squad, the Fire Services Department and MTRC have set up a working platform to enhance communication. In the MTR station, we also have drills taking place, and in the regular training program, we have injected a security element into it to enhance communication coordination in the event of major events. Fourth, internal control coordination and training. The measures include formulating training packages to enhance our ability to use non-lethal weapons and also the use of CS gas, and to improve the coordination between different squads and brigades. We also have a multimedia interactive equipment training to enhance the commander's ability to deploy tactics and strategies. The police will proactively follow up on the other recommendations of the thematic study report of the IPCC. So much I have to say for the time being. Thank you. Vice Chair, Mr. Frankie Yik. Chairman, of these 621 reportable cases, there are 138, about 22% of them arise from the media organizations. The bone of contention is that we saw a lot of clips in our scrutiny. There are arguments over the room for them to operate in. There are 37 cases of this nature. The police will ask them to step back a little bit, and they would be arguing back. In the thematic study report, there are recommendations that the police and the media organizations should keep up their communication in order to build up certain guidelines acceptable to both parties in a way to avoid these unnecessary conflicts. Of course, the media would like to get the story at close quarters. The police would have regard to privacy, safety, and security, and they would like to have more room to work in.
Last year, in 2019, we have seen a lot of these cases. So we would like to hear what CAPO has done and so far. And of course, we already hear that the police force already enhanced training for frontline police and communication with the media. This is very good. But on communication with media groups, can you brief us on the latest development? Thank you. There are a few areas. One is about 138 cases that actually cover a few scenarios. And then about actually the working order, we have already very proactively to contact the media. And right now, we receive no response from them. And then we understand that the safety is the priority. We hope that the media can work safely. And then so our the biggest consideration is on safety. And then based on this, we communicate with the media so that they can understand that they really need to put the safety as their priority while working. And then we hope that we can make some progress in terms of the work code. And then on the different scenarios. Well, thank you for the chair and also the Secretary General. Well, in fact, they all mentioned this areas. And then well, we have made some analysis on 138 cases. There are 6 major scenarios. One is cordon off and then designated area. And the second is about the strong light while pointing at them and then so that they cannot work. And the third is on the foul languages. And then the fourth is about when they try to arrest and disperse the crowd, and there's no clear instruction to the media on when to leave, etc. And then also in cases of use of violence, then while the media suffer from collateral, actually damages and also harm. Well, overall, I think that in all scenarios, and both parties need to keep their situation safe while working. And then while the situation become quieter, comparatively speaking, in January, we already conducted a communication meeting with some media and also our liaison team. And then well, maybe within a year, in the different types of meetings, we will try to put on the table the difficulties and then come up with some recommendation. Well, it's too early to talk about the code of operation for both sides. And we also include this scenario-based training for the PTU. And we have make very good use of all these scenarios for PTU, drills of PTU and also the media liaison team to facilitate the media work in the POEs. All along, our principle is not to affect the operation, and under appropriate circumstances, we will facilitate media coverage. But for the FOO, and then, I think that safety is the priority, and then we really need to respect our work, on both sides. Just now, Mr. Yik talked about the 138 out of the 621, 22% of the complaints. So I think that the rioters and the public has the closest contact and the most frequent contact with the police. And I think that the figure reflects something. And in the Secretariat also to make analysis on the different scenarios. And for us, I think that we know that the scenarios might be different, but if there's no prior consensus on how the different party works, then there might be conflicts, and then this will accumulate, and it's spirally, and then so that's why that well, out of the blue, that for some phrase or some words from the police, and then there was a special kind of response, and then this reflect actually the behind the scene that there is some kind of discontent on the other one another. So whether that we will have a code of practice, I'm just wondering if we have some consensus, reach some consensus on a particular situation or scenarios by both parties. And I think that we might not need to code of practice, but well, at least there are some consensus for both parties, and that would improve the situation. Thank you. Thank you for your suggestion, Daniel. I think this is really good. It's just like what we said, that we have 10 exchanges. And then actually also there's the meeting with the media. We really want to bring forth to the media that better coordination is really very much preferred. Well, now we have already doubled our media liaison team, and from 100-some to 300 now. And so we really are very eager to construct to build a constructive environment to facilitate their work. And we want to bring forth also so that they understand that their safety is the priority, and that both parties should also be able to work. And then I just want to emphasize that we have the determination to solve the problem. Well, in those clippings, I think that, well, it's really a matter of space that each party wants to have, and then they have their own criteria. Well, taking the situation in the other countries. That there are the guidelines, and then they have the buffer zone, and this buffer zone will not be occupied by any one of the parties, or I think that maybe in the future that you can take this to the media and discuss with them. IPCC put a lot of emphasis on the situation, and there I think that the constant and then ends or complaints on similar situations. And we hope that we can take whatever measures we can, and then to solve the situation. Clement. Thank you, Chair. About the 52 recommendation, I have one question about the 999 system. I believe that all of you remember that on the 21st of July in Yuen Long, and then one of the major problems is that, there's no answer, or that no one takes the call, and then or that the police cannot tell them what exactly is the police doing at that time, and some just cut the call, etc. So the overall impression of the public is that, the police might just turn the deaf ear to the situation, and etc. I'm really glad to hear that you have paid a lot of emphasis on 999 and then make a lot of improvements. For us, when we work on the thematic studies, we also see that in many of the cases that the public just take those information from the media or other social media and then make the call. And later on, and we found that the key is that in the call center, they already knew about the case. And they also tell the caller that the staff of police have been sent to the scene. And it's just that the dissemination of information is not clear enough. Now that you already improve and enhance the PPRP, will you consider using other channel to disseminate information to the public very rapidly? And say that the police already know about the issue, the police already have taken some action. There is no need for the public to call again because it has added a lot of load on the police. And just to clarify the situation and telling the public that the system cannot afford that many calls. In your report, you also mentioned about that. Have you ever considered of more targeted information dissemination and collection? Thank you, Clement, for your question. I think that you already understand that the Operations Center has made a lot of improvement, and the Hong Kong, the Kowloon, and the New Territory headquarters. In fact, that we receive an average of 6,000 calls in all the territories, so that every day we receive like 6,000 calls. In that particular day, the 21st of July, we receive a very abnormal number of calls, like 20,000 number of calls. So this is a very significant difference. And because of the emergency, and then we have corresponding measures like backup teams, etc. Clement, you want to bring out that, other than this, is there any other measures? Of course, the police will act on the emergency incidents. And then we have other channels for them to make complaints. And like that they can actually report on the web. And for the information dissemination, you can notice that we have the big plates and notice boards along the road, and also on the very special traffic situation arrangements. So other government departments will also help us actually to disseminate information. But for 999 in particular, we hope that other than PPRB to provide diversified channels of information dissemination, we will also seek assistance and coordinations with other government departments. Really, and then, this is a question of clarification on the THAs, and then you mentioned that 6 out of the 12 HTAs, there are already CCTV installed. And in your report, in the first quarter, we will already complete the installation. And then, but I also note that the additional information saying that if we need to have HTAs outside police the stations, we will also need actually to install the CCTV systems. Well, I just want to know that, we cannot just do it on the spot. We really need to have some reserve. Have you already purchased the reserve CCTV so that once you need those HTAs, you can do it immediately? Well, this is about operation, so I would like Mr. Chan to respond to it.
For the large POEs, we have the designated THAs on land. All the facilities like computers, equipment, they are standardized. For the installation of the CCTV and so on, we need to do some retrofitting work. Vice Chairman Chen, you've got a point there. There are 6 that have already been retrofitted with the CCTVs. There are 4 that are being arranged. Procurement has been completed. It's all a matter of installation. It is expected that in Q1, the installation work would have been completed. Sorry, my point is, will you be procuring extra facilities? Like if THA were to be designated outside the police station, you would be able to deploy straight away. We have 10 THAs, and I mean, it's only in very serious situation that 10 THAs will be up and running, and the possibility of this happening is low. So I think it is enough for us to have 10 THAs there. Chairman. I've got a question here, also a suggestion if you like. I heard that for major POEs, you're going to have some arrangement between the police and the media organizations. On TV, we saw that there is a very heavy police presence on the scene. So did you conduct any analysis on the correspondents? How many of them are regular journalists, and how many of them appear because of the FOO issue? From the PPRB, we know that there are so many other media events and also press conferences of all the reporters appearing on the scene. Are they regulars? We are all concerned about the anti-extradition saga. We saw so many reporters. Of course, they're there to report for the people of Hong Kong, and they are working really exceedingly hard, and we're grateful to them for that, for undertaking such a dangerous work. But for some of them, we're not sure about their status because of sheer number. You would hold press conferences and press briefings and so on. Are they also appearing at these press conferences as well? We hope that reporters will be reporting on the stories to bring us the truth. I think the police always to look at these statistics so that the members of the public and the IPCC would be in a position to know how many of them are actually reporters covering the stories, or how many of them are not regulars. They only appear on an irregular basis. I think we have to make sure that they have the credibility. The police are talking about credibility. The media also should be talking about credibility. I think if you have the statistics, it would be helping everyone all around. Let me address this question. This is within the purview of the PPRB. Now, for reporters, we do experience difficulties in accrediting the reporters. There are some organizations that claim to be online reporters or independent reporters, or there are some students who like to come forward and become reporters. Now, for the social events arising from the anti-extradition saga, it would be difficult for us to differentiate in the thick of things, we saw some people donning the yellow vest and claiming to be reporters. Indeed, it would be hard for us on the scene. Our understanding is that the ISD does have a mechanism. They do maintain communication with the accredited media organizations and the media organizations that enjoy credibility. They do have the record of these. So when press briefings take place, it would be okay to identify the reporters. The PPRB has also formulated some definitions for reporters. All these are done on the basis, on the premise of safety. Now, in a press conference, we have to make sure that the so-called reporters will not constitute any danger to the events, and they are there for the events on a bona fide basis. So some measures have been taken. Now, in chaos, as we said, we have increased the manpower for communicating with the media, and they are playing the bridging role. And if they identify someone who doesn't seem to be reporters, they may be posing as reporters, and we don't rule out the possibility that someone will turn up claiming to be reporters, and we're not sure about the motives. Nobody knows about the motives. But in our operation, we do not allow these people to be in our midst. So if our colleagues do have doubts, they can check the identity with the PPRB or the ISD. The members are concerned about the guidelines to be put in place for dealing with the media. Even if we don't have a whole set of guidelines, we'd like to have some safety protocol. We're not making life difficult for the reporters when we are checking their identity. And we have to be sure that these are genuine media organizations that are doing the bona fide work. We don't really want to see anybody claiming or posing to be reporters and disseminating information which is not true. So going forward, this is precisely what the PPRB is going to be doing. We should have some safety protocol, although we're not talking about any particular guidelines. All right, let me say this. In a POE event, the police officers do have the obligation and duty to enforce the law. Nobody can obstruct the law enforcement. Even if chief executive is there, she cannot obstruct the law enforcement work. I'm sure that this is something we have to recognize. SG? I've got a question, but before I put my question, I'd like to follow up on Mr. Chan's question. Let me cite you some statistics. Mr. Chan referred to the 999 in the 721 incident. There are 50 complaints, of which most of them, the complainants, were not on the scene. They saw what happened on TV and they rang up with their complaints. Only a few of them were on the scene. 75% of the complaints lodged the complaint because they couldn't get through to 999, or they talked with the 999 console and they thought that they were hung up on. And we listened back to all these calls. I get the feeling that resources are not infinite. While you are calling through, there are tens of thousands of calls that are still waiting to be taken. And on that day, the 3 consoles handle 3,192 phone calls. The capacity is actually 950 per console. That's the limit of capacity. I think the members of the public may not be aware that the 999 console is limited by finite resources. Now, Monica said there are certain measures which are really marvelous, but I think resources are, after all, finite. And the members of the public should be given better understanding about the finite resources that are at the disposal of the 999 service. Monica told us all these measures, and I've also read all the papers myself. My view is that we wrote up the thematic study. There are more initiatives taken than what are being recommended. I think you have gone over and above what we are recommending. We should not look at the measures in their isolation. When these measures are put together, there is a synergistic effect. From the IPCC's point of view, the key thing is how best we can deal with complaints and prevent complaints. Together with Mr. Yik, we scrutinize these cases. We feel that should similar events were to happen, we would be able to prevent these complaints, and or if the complaints come through, we would be able to deal with them that much more effectively. When I look at these complaints, we dealt with a lot of complaints about the CS gas, and I think on the ground there may be justification for the CS gas, but given the dense population in Hong Kong, the gas will be wafting upwards. The protesters on the ground may be digging the heels in, and the CS gas will be emitted, and people upstairs would be victimized because of all these gas wafting up, and we receive complaints like this. So are you going to be dealing with these kind of scenario? Second, when we scrutinize the complaints, it would be better if we have the video clips. That's what happened when we did the thematic study, and we were given some video, and we also got hold of the video from the media, and that would enable us to judge whether the action was appropriate. At the last joint meeting, the police told us the body-worn cameras. Should we follow up on this digital action camera? Should the similar things occur again going forward, would the digital action camera be of help? I remember vividly that when we put together the thematic study report, we made a visit to Wong Tai Sin. There was Assistant Commissioner Zhang. The Director of Operation is currently assessing the district policing work, and I'm sure that the director will have regard to these issues. There are a couple of points here. First of all, what principles should we use in the releasing of the CS gas? I'm sure that in the force manual that there must be clear stipulation, and I'm sure that you would have regard to these manual. That's the manual for the operation. The second issue is like the Vice SG said, there is collateral damage, and there are people who get caught in the middle, and how are you going to deal with this? Also, the understanding of the members of the public. If you are affecting other members of the public, it would be hard for them to be so forgiving if I live upstairs.
So we need to see what's the next step. I mean, all of us need to think deeper. Thank you for the chair and also the Secretary General. I think that is very useful. First of all, it's about the digital action camera, and then I will let Mr. Chan to talk about the tear gas deployment. And then last time, our senior superintendent already explained the digital action camera is a very useful tool for evidence collection. And then, in terms of anti-riot actions, and this is particularly useful. And then right now, this digital action camera is being put on the Hamlet. Right now that we are thinking whether that we can handheld this digital action camera. In fact, that we are continuously optimizing our facilities. And as we mentioned before, that we can have clips and also the images, and then to prove and then to support our message. Okay, maybe I will respond since I have experience on the front line. Well, for the public, who are affected by the tear gas, we deeply appreciate their feeling. And but we need to put the situation when the riot took place. At that time, this is the least force being used in those situations. And then the deployment of tear gas was for the purpose to disperse the crowd as soon as possible. And as a matter of fact, after we used the tear gas, the people just ran in 4 directions. And some people says that, I did not see anything, but just see the smoke, etc. And I think that at that particular time, the commander will know the best. And then I think that if you look at it from a different angle, you might not understand the situation fully. And for the commanders, and then I think that all of you will know that since the tear gas is being fired at residential area, then it might affect the people living there. And the PPRB has a very close relationship with the people at the different localities in the communities. We have people who are responsible to keep in touch with the particular community. If we know in advance that there will be problems or protests or gatherings in one particular area or district, like the police station in a particular area, and if we receive those intelligence in advance, and we will disseminate those information to the community via PPRB, like elderly homes and then different residential buildings, etc. And then the commander will also alert that they will stop as soon as it already achieved its objective, i.e. disperse the crowd. But just imagine the smoke will not disperse, and then there is a delay in that, even after the crowd is being dispersed. And then, in the recommendation, as you all note, that the training and then also the code of practice of PPRB, we already made a lot of consideration and review. And there are elements added. For instance, in cases of advanced intelligence, we will, through different channels, to inform the community in order to minimize the impact. So will explain more. We will send notification more as much as possible. And of course, emergency situation, we cannot do that. But if we know situations in advance, we will inform them in advance. But if we cannot do it, we will try to explain that afterwards. I would like to make 2 additions. And then first is about 21st July incidents. And then we received 3,192 called through the 3 panels. And then from 10 on 721 to the 3 to 722, we actually already exceed the capacity. And second is that in FOO, the whole process, there is irregular media who cover those the different incidents. And last year, September, we already revised media representative and stipulating that they need actually to register with government information services. Of course, we have some criteria. For instance, and then before the application, they need to have the reports in the 3 months in advance, and then they need to have editors and reporters, etc. Certain number of them, and then this will enable us to check and confirm whether that they are registered or the regular media through PPRB when they have doubts. I will make a simple response. Thank you very much for your questions this time and also in previous meetings. And your suggestions are very useful for our follow-up action and then our research. And I would like just to emphasize here that many of our explanation on our action, police action, simply like that firing of tear gas that causes inconvenience to the media or to the community. I think that you have make very good suggestion, and that actually echoes what we have reported earlier on, i.e. that, if we can make the risk assessment in advance, then we will try to disseminate information to parties that might be affected in advance. And then we will follow up on this. Just now that you've made a very valid point, like at the 999 call, and then the limited resources of the police. And the 999 also has a resource constraint. And then not only in the riot situation, like in typhoon, and then when the number 10 is hoisted, and then there are similar situations like that people complain of not able to making it through to 999. And so we will internally our policy bureau, who is responsible for the policy making, we will follow up through this department and the reviewing the operation, etc. And then we will do a review and then we'll report our results. I think that communication not can made through Facebook and Twitter, and I think that we can actually be more creative and innovative. Thank you, Chair. According to your progress, you have already completed 16 of the 52 recommendations. And So it's about 40%. And then I have two questions. One is that with this experience, have you any estimation that you might not be able to accomplish based on maybe resources that you might not be able to accomplish or respond to any one of those recommendations? And according to the current timeline, what is your estimation on when you can complete the remaining recommendations? Until today, we have already accomplished 26 of those 52 recommendations, and then we have a very significant progress. And as you all know, that the police force put a lot of emphasis on all IPCC recommendations. And on each one of them, we do it very carefully and then as quickly as possible, and then also to implement them. And then right now we have to launch 45 different measures to respond to those recommendations. And Alex asked, how about the remaining recommendations? Yeah, we will follow up with great effort. On the use of force, because it is not that easy to come up with a new measure. We need actually to review the existing code and then take references on the practices of in other countries. And because we are very earnest and careful, so we think, and then getting the consent from the Security Bureau, and then you will take more time. And but anyway, rest assured that we will follow up, and then we will do it very carefully and meticulously. And can we accomplish and then respond to each one of these 52? We will try our best, but we will look at the reality and the feasibility, and then and we will report to you on the situations that we find it difficult, and then to make the necessary explanation. There might be cases where we cannot respond. I would like to add one point. Last year, when we submit the report to the chief executive, and then she promised that the government and the police would implement the recommendations. I think that they take it very close to her heart, and then every 3 months, the director of security and actually need to report to her on the development. Any other question? If not, thank you, Mr. Lam, for your very detailed report. The last item is by circulation. It's about the procedural issue on disciplinary actions, etc. Do you want to make a brief report? It's not needed. We already just sent our report. We have no supplement here. So we end all the items today. Any other business? Chair and members, allow me to suggest an AOB item. We just want to put it on record that the Hong Kong police want to send our gratefulness and thank you to the chair who spent the last 3 years to study and then make recommendations to the Hong Kong police to enhance our services and also enhance the trust from the community. And while I understand that Dr. Lam is holding this meeting for the last time, and then on behalf of the police, I would like to thank Dr. Leung's hard work, particularly in times of turmoil and social unrest. And as you just mentioned, that thematic study have already been sent to the chief executive, and that includes the 52 recommendations. The Hong Kong police has put a lot of emphasis on those recommendations. And I truly believe that even after departure from IPCC, Dr. Leung, on behalf of his professional expertise, I will continue to monitor our work. And then I would like to thank Dr. Leung again for his support, for your support to the Hong Kong police.
Thank you very much, Madam Lam, for these 3 years. I just like to contribute my little bit of whether I have done a good job or not. I think all I can do is to give my best and nothing but my best. I've always felt that I didn't do a good enough job. In the months to come, there is still so much yet to be done, and I don't think I can leave. But by the time I leave on the 1st of June, I would definitely support the IPCC and also the work of the police. And in my personal capacity, thank you very much. That's it for today's meeting. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Chairman. I'm sure you must have sat through the joint meeting, and you must be aware of our discussions. So there is nothing in particular I'd like to comment on. And I'd like to throw the floor open for questions. Clement will be taking you through some of the outreach work later on. Apple Daily. There was a mention of the complaint cases arising from the FOO related cases. You've received the reports and you have categorized them. Are there any for which the complaints the investigation have been completed? How many of them are substantiated, and what are the nature of the complaints? And can you tell us the categorization of these cases? Now, with the introduction of NSL, there may be complaints arising from NSL, and the IPCC may not be able to have access to the information. As of now, have you got any complaints in relation to the national security law? Third, it is reported that the police might introduce, might procure the taser. And if an IPCC receives reports like this, how are you going to follow up on taser? Because we're all concerned about the use of force. Let me take the second and third question. I defer to the SG for the first one. About taser, as of today, we haven't got any specific report. And they haven't quite taken the final decision yet, because the world over, the use of taser is bound by guidelines, and the guidelines will specify the kind of circumstances in which this can be used. And all these guidelines are available in many different jurisdictions. And as far as the police are concerned, we don't have any information except that they are thinking about it. There were one or two members who raised this before, and we haven't got any information today, but we are conducting some studies about the guidelines that are being adopted, that have been adopted by other jurisdictions. The study is ongoing. As soon as the information is available, we will communicate with the police. Second, about the NSL complaints, no, we haven't got any. We should be aware of them. If there are, the police have not received any complaints. If the police haven't received any complaints, neither have we. Assuming that there are, we will not be dealing with them any differently to other cases. So we cannot deal with them unless we have other cases. As regards the NSL, I am a lawyer by profession. In my other capacity in the international law organization, we have held a lot of seminars, but it's got nothing to do with the IPCC at all. I defer to SG for the first question. There are 621 reportable cases, or RCs. 1,095 complaints are there. Most of the complaints, 70% of them are minor complaints. 30% of them are of a more serious nature, like assault, unnecessary use of force, threat, and fabrication of evidence. Unnecessary use of authority and assault are higher. 104 for authority, threat, fabrication 5. Minor complaints, neglect of duty, misconduct, 254, 130 for impoliteness, offensive language, 75. So that's the statistics. We have received 446 complaints from CAPO, for which the investigation has been completed. Of the 446, 322 have been completed, of which 64 are for thorough investigation. There are 5 cases that are substantiated, or 4 are substantiated, involving 5 allegations. 1 was substantiated without reporting. But for the substantiated ones, 2 involving offensive language, 1 impoliteness, 1 neglect of duty, 1 unnecessary use of authority, substantiated without reporting, 1 neglect of duty. I must emphasize that of these cases, there are 2 in which the complainant didn't come forward to give a statement. But since CAPO and the IPCC looked at the case, and there was sufficient evidence to show that there was wrongdoing, so for these two cases, they were substantiated. In one case, the complaint has been withdrawn, but having scrutinized the report, we find that things could have been done better, and it was substantiated. Even for those two cases, we call them NP and not pursuable. And one case of withdrawal, we still consider them substantiated. For the other allegations, 19 unsubstantiated, no fault, 51. For the others, the 114 cases that have been withdrawn, the complainant withdrew the cases of their own accord. There are 134 that are non-pursuable. Non-pursuable because we couldn't secure the cooperation of the complainant. There are 10 cases that were dealt with through informal resolution. The complainant expressed the dissatisfaction, and he would like to refer the complaint to the police management for improvement to be made. So that was dealt with through informal resolution. Daniel, there are some small number of cases in which the police officer may not have done right, but we couldn't spot anyone, and they were in the minority. And for those cases, we also follow up. You may wish to give us more details. Yes, for some cases, we couldn't identify the police officer because the complainant might take the photo of which is not sufficiently clear. The clips may not be sufficiently clear. And the conduct may not be appropriate. We may not know the identity of the police officer. We know the squad. And after discussing with CAPO, we would make recommendations to the entire squad and hope that they would be able to do the job better going forward. We have discussed. We're discussing with CAPO on these cases. Any further questions? Any further questions? Yes, please. Commercial radio. The gentleman's not speaking through. Now you said the identity of the police officer is not clear, and you would talk with the squad. And how would you classify this? Would it be recommendation, suggestion, reprimand, or what? So the entire squad might involve dozens of police officers. Do you think that there would be enough deterrent effect? This kind of recommendation. Also, some complainants, 114, withdrew their complaints. Did you follow up on these cases afterwards? Did you find out, ascertain why they withdrew? Did you get in touch with them why they withdrew the cases? Did you follow up on these cases? Finally, I'd like to follow up on the complaint cases that have been completed. Any of them involving A31 or 721?
About the withdrawn cases, yes, there are. We will ask the complainant why they withdraw the complaint, and then we have record on them. And for instance, if they have the telephone number and then they have a recording, then we will try to make sure that they know that they withdraw, and then we will follow up on those cases. And then on why, some just think that, well, it's a misunderstanding, and some might think that they don't want to pursue, and they want to reflect their opinions to a senior level of the police, and some just said that they just don't want to spend more time to pursue. So there are various kinds of reasons, and then under the withdrawn that we will do follow-ups. And on the 721, there are complaints. There are complaints relating to 721. So the figures are like there are 50 complaints on the 721. Among them, the 75 are related to 999 calls. That some says that they cannot get through. Some complain that, the operator is impolite. And some complain that before they finish, that the line was cut off and things like that. We are very concerned that there are over 20,000 calls to 999. And then the police said that from 10:30 to 1:30, that the three consuls in Hong Kong, Kowloon, and New Territories, there are altogether 3,192 calls. The maximum capacity in this the 3 hours is 950 phone call load, and so it's far exceed the load. At that particular night, there is more than 20,000 phone calls. Some cannot get through the service provider, and some even cannot access a service provider. And then under these circumstances, they make their complaint. And then among this complaint, we look at the computer record and to see if they already talk with the operator, and then we will go through all this conversation. And what I would like to say is that the majority of the complaints, among 50 of them, most of them, as you all know, that 721 happened on the West Rail Line. And then most of the complaint make the complaint after they see the situation, and they knew the situation on TV or from other media, and they just made a call after seeing those information. And then, of course, that they make those calls, and then they have problem. They find that the operators was impolite, etc. Sorry, because Dr. Leung hasn't turned on the mic. Half of the cases are subjudiciary, and so that they cannot be handled now. How about the details, like the police that does not show up, etc.? Well, if I remember correctly, there's no complaint that goes as detailed as that, like a negligence of duty. And I just want to answer your first question. There are recommendations, and it's called service quality advice to the squad, and indicating that under certain circumstances, that some police need to improve and things like that. We think that these suggestions are good, because once the squad knew that there are improper behavior or conduct, then they know how to correct it and how to do it right. And then, it is quite different, and this is quite similar to situations where we find that the police is at fault, and then we will make it clearly what is good and what is wrong. I'm from Ming Pao. I would like to follow up on the questions. Just now you said that you will work with CAPO to make suggestions to the squad. And do you have concrete examples? Like that you cannot identify one particular police officer, and then you make the suggestions to the whole squad. And then if so, what is the case? And then what is the complaint? And then what is your recommendation? And you said that 322 is already completed. 4 are substantiated, and 2 is under offensive language. 1 is impolite, and 1 is negligence, and 1 is unnecessary use of authority. So can you elaborate on those? Well, maybe I would talk about some of the details. So 1 took place when the complaint is on his way home, and then he met a frontline officer, and then the police asked him to speed up, and that amount, and then there is a use of offensive language, and this is substantiated. Well, although that the complainant did not make the complaint, but we saw that in a video. So we knew that this is improper. And the second is there's a complainant, and he noticed that there is actually a situation when the police is working. And then the police actually asked someone to leave, and then with using some offensive language. This is substantiated as well. And the third case, the complainant was arrested for criminal damage, and then he was on the street, and then the police was putting a hook on him, and then when the police was putting on the hook, and he did not actually lock it down, and then the police says that the guy who is being arrested refused to sign, and then there is no complaint on this situation, and then it is substantiated, and the complainant did not make to give evidence. But after we saw the video clip, and then we felt that there are evidence proving this is substantiated. We just want to emphasize that the complainant did not give their testimony, and they did not make the complaint. But CAPO and us saw the video, and then to classify and substantiate the cases. And the 4th is a withdrawal of the complaint. This is a teenager below 16, arrested by the police of arson. And before the parent arrived, police, according to the police procedure, since that he's a minor, then all the interrogation needed to be made after the parents arrived, and so that this is a substantiated case. And lastly, this involved the media. In the case, there is a media person, and then they are engaged in a quarrel with the police, and the police asked the reporter as a fake reporter, and then we've considered that inappropriate. And the last one, the lawyer who want to see a client in the police station, but since there are the issue of papers and documents, etc., and the police stopped the lawyer to see his client. For us, despite the nature of the documents and papers, we thought that found that actually the lawyer should be allowed to see the client, and then this is a substantiate. So I already gave you the details of 6 cases. Just now.
And you mentioned that you would give advice to the whole squad of policemen. Did it ever happen? I don't have any information with me, but from memory, I think some frontline colleagues used some inappropriate weddings which were recorded audially, although we couldn't identify exactly who the officer was. We did give advice to the entire squad, however hard they work, they should maintain the appropriate level of service, and where possible they should avoid certain kind of weddings. This is called service quality advice. The quality of service leaves something to be desired, so we have to give a reminder to the commander to follow up these cases and make some improvements. Lady over there, please. Hong Kong 01. It was mentioned that for certain categories of cases, the investigation might take 12 months. And what kind of categories are these, and how many are there in numbers? 12 months. Do you think that the evidence might be adversely affected? My second question is, you haven't received any complaints pertaining to NSL. How are you going to deal with them? Should they come forward? Are there any cases they cannot be divulged? Have you discussed the mechanism? Are there any loopholes in the mechanism? We'll get all the questions in, please. I noticed that for 2 years, the IPCC's expenditure has been slashed. Will this affect the operation of the IPCC? Well, I defer to you for the first question, to Daniel for the first question, and let me deal with the expenditure first. We don't spend all the reserves. We are still keeping our reserves. We returned half to the administration last year. We are financially sound. Last year, because of the anti-extradition saga, we got some funding from the government. We haven't quite used up the money. As to the NSL, as I said a moment ago, we have not received any complaints. Assuming that there are complaints, I have already liaised with the police. We discussed these issues. They told us that they would be acting in accordance with the protocol. If there are certain things that have to be kept confidential, they will let us know. But I don't think that will be the case, because assuming that confidentiality is necessitated, maybe they are conducting criminal investigation. Now, with the criminal investigation going on, we would normally scrutinize them until such time as the investigation is completed. So we don't think there will be any particular problems. Let me address your question about some of the cases taking 12 months to complete. That's because the complainants didn't come forward, and the CAPO has to spend a lot of time. Now, for these cases, they are handled by one particular organization. These are the complaints arising from the media through the media organization, and CAPO rang up the organization and wrote to the organization on many occasions, but still to no avail. And repeatedly at the Serious Complaint Committee, we raised this issue, and we cannot allow this to go on ad infinitum. So we take the opportunity to appeal to the complainant that they should get in touch with CAPO, like the friend of the media said. People may be liable to forget about the details, and evidence might disappear. The evidence might disappear, might be lost. So we are concerned about this scenario. I hope that the complainant will come forward and deal with this as soon as possible. I'd like to ask Clement to talk about the way forward. Chairman, thank you. Friends of the media, at our joint meeting today, we spent quite a bit of time following up on the 52 recommendations arising from the thematic study report. The IPCC has also done a lot of work. The chairman and 16 members did pay a visit to the Hong Kong police station. This is one of the stations, if necessary, that will be converted into a THA, temporary holding area. In our thematic study report, we made mention of the THA that left so much to be desired. Because of our recommendation, the police took action to identify some of the other areas. Hong Kong police station is one of them. If necessary, they will have to introduce certain procedures to make sure that the detainees would have the welfare and the well-being well looked after, and the efficiency of the procedures will have to be safeguarded. And we were given a presentation of the THA in Hong Kong. Second, the chairman already alluded to the service quality. The IPCC not only looks at the complaint mechanism and the cases of complaint, it is also attaching a lot of importance to the quality of service on the part of the police. We suggested to the police that more joint meetings should be held and more platforms should be created so that we can understand from the police the frontline work, the frontline policemen, policing enforcement work, and all the difficulties that they encounter in the enforcement work. We'd like to hear more about their views. And we also like to take this opportunity to share with them our observations when scrutinizing the cases, like some of the similar behaviors or why the cases, the complaint cases arise. We'd like to share with them, and I hope that through these sharing sessions, they will be in a position to understand the public perception about their behavior and also the problems arising from the enforcement work, like the exchanges, the verbal exchanges with the members of the public, and this is sometimes a ground for complaint. And through this sharing session, we hope that they would understand that all these complaints could have been avoided. I hope that through this, we will be able to minimize the number of complaints.
We also understand that good police and public community relationship, trust is very important. And then to build up trust, we need actually exchange and communications. And as you see, that our newsletter is also a good channel to do that. This issue or this of the newsletter is very rich. And then first of all is about the 52 recommendation, the progress, and how many still in process, and then how many takes more time to handle, etc. And then you can see it, the whole picture. And we also give details on how it is being processed, so there's a high transparency on that. And other than that, we also introduce, as we just mentioned, the THA, and then in Hong Kong's police station. And then we also have new members, IPCC members, our new vice chair, and then who joined this visit. And so that the media understand better the mechanism and also the personnel of IPCC. Other than that, well, over the past decade, the figure of complaints is gradually lessened and decreases. And as the reason behind is that other than monitoring how these complaints were being handled, our responsibility is also on optimizing the service, the quality of service of the police force. So we will work, we will enhance our work on outreach to explain to stakeholders on the two-tier system, and then how to do monitoring, etc. So that we will work more on this. And although that we are still under the pandemic, and which affects exchanges opportunity, but we will grab that free opportunity in the future to communicate and attend seminars in schools and professional groups, etc., and to introduce the two-tiered complaint system of IPCC. Lastly, we are also making a 4-series TV series to introduce typical cases of IPCC complaints, and so that the public will have a better understanding of the operation of IPCC, what IPCC have done, and the effectiveness of IPCC's work, and how effective of the work on the results of the complaints. So you can see that, I think that we make a change at the end. And this is my report on the future of IPCC's outreach work, and also on the quality service of the police. Thank you. So we will take 2 more questions.
Yeah, first on the fact that the police is studying, on whether to equip officers with kind of more non-lethal weapons, such as pistol-sized pepper ball gun launchers, and then like stun guns. In the IPCC view, do you think it's a good idea to further weaponize officers? And you mentioned that you guys are also doing some sort of study in that regard. So what sort of studies are you guys doing? Second question regarding the service quality advice. It's sort of a follow-up to the reporter's question just now. By just giving them a warning to the whole team, is that an effective way in the long run? Because it's sort of give the public perception that the officer concerned is not held accountable for what he or she did. So is it really effective or useful in the long term? Third question regarding the 52 suggestions. So far, like around half of the 52 suggestions have been completed. It has been 2 years after the extradition bill saga. So looking at the current point in time, about the trust between the police and the public, what level are we at looking at this current point in time, do you think?
Well, let me answer all 3 questions. The first question is that, is it a good idea to further weaponize the police? Of course it is not a good idea. It is never a good idea to further weaponize the police. But it is always a good idea to use minimum force. And that is the idea of really trying to use methods by which minimum force could be used in a public order situation. This is the basic criterion that the police as well as the IPCC would use to ensure that in any law enforcement situation, only minimum force is used. So that, in fact, is the basic criterion that we use in the thematic study. If you look at our report, the chapter that deals with the use of force, this is the basic criterion. Now, as far as the question of giving an advice to the whole team, now actually we don't give the advice to the whole team, actually. The advice is actually given, in fact, to the commanding officer who has the responsibility to ensure that the whole team, in fact, behaves in the correct manner in the future. That, in fact, is the basic criterion of accountability, because we want to ensure that anything which has happened which is untoward, in fact, does not happen again in the future. And if that quality advice is not answered and not adhered to, then there will be, in fact, command consequences for the command officer. This is again, a basic criterion of accountability. As far as the 52 recommendations are concerned, sorry.
Time taken for...
Yes, the time for that, as the Senior Assistant Commissioner has said this afternoon, they are trying their very best to ensure a quick resolution of the recommendations. As some of these recommendations may take time, she says, and I understand that. But the Chief Executive, in fact, is very conscious of the need to ensure that we do implement the recommendations. And in fact, she requires a report every 3 months from not only the police, but the Secretary for Security. So, and every time I see the Chief Executive from time to time, she reminds me that, she says, Tony, I have not forgotten the 52 reports, the recommendations, and I will make sure that they will be implemented as soon as possible, provided, of course, they are feasible. But she's a experienced civil servant. She always uses the word feasibility. Now, from my point of view and the IPCC point of view, we would actually look at every recommendation and ensure that the police takes reasonable time and takes reasonable heed of those. And in fact, as Clement has indicated to you, we visited the Ho Man Tin Hong Ham Police Station to look at the latest implementation of the temporary holding areas. Now, we will be doing that in the course of the next few months. As and when something is put on the ground, we will go and visit them and make sure that we see implementation on the ground.
My question was, have you seen kind of an improvement? Like, what is the trust between the public?
We see an improvement in terms of certain areas. In terms, for example, of the temporary holding area, we definitely see an improvement.
In regards to, the relationship between the public and the police.
But
the trust.
That I'm afraid needs time, and that actually needs a survey, which I cannot do. I mean, I see from my friends an improvement, but my circle is very limited. I see a few dogs from time to time, and my wife, and members of my office. So my circle is extremely limited. You can ask my dogs, and they like the police. Yeah.
Can I just supplement on the last
and
question?
I've got 2 Alsatian.
Yeah. Last question. Actually, in the meeting today, there was a very lengthy, detailed introduction of PPRB, the public relation team of the police. And I think lately, because of our recommendation, they have implemented a lot of new procedures in the likes of, in the event of sudden sort of happening of public event, instead of in the old method that they were relying on the media, the traditional media, to disseminate their news or the move of the police. They actually are adopting a very proactive way through newly established media platforms to disseminate, sort of police information and messages. And not only that, they are using live, sort of broadcast through YouTube to broadcast, their will and the warning to the public and things like that. So I guess as a package, all of those are meant to pass very timely and updated information to the public in order to improve the trust and information flow between police and public.
I think long and short of it is that a lot of work is being done. I cannot tell you scientifically the extent of improvement because we do need time and we do need in fact a study, and we haven't got that at the moment.
Last question, Oriental Daily. You mentioned the various cases. Is the number 5? And for the case that was substantiated, what was the penalty meted out to the policeman? My second question, in the meeting, the police said that of the 52 recommendations, well over half of them have been completed. You look at the complaint statistics between today and this one last month, there is a 2-case difference, and neglect of duty has gone up by 50%. We've seen less in the way of confrontation with half the recommendations being completed. If they've done a good job, do you think that the recommendations managed to raise the service quality on the part of the police and also improve the relationship between the police and the public? The number is 6 complaint cases involving 5 substantiated and 1 substantiated other than reporting. The police officers involved were given advice to make them do better, because most of them used inappropriate language, or they didn't fill in the logbook, and they were of a minor nature. We would just give them the advice. For the 52 recommendations, basically, they reported to us that 26 have been completed. Are you referring to the 52 recommendations in the thematic study report? And we still have to ascertain what the effect is. But as I said during the meeting, I looked at 49 recommendations and also the 26 of the 49 initiatives and 26 recommendations. They are really pragmatic measures. When the chairman and us compiled the thematic report, there are areas that should be improved, but from the initiative that they've taken, there are improvements. They have done more than we asked for. Some of them gave us really some pleasant surprise. I think it takes time for improvement to come through, but as I said during the meeting, we cannot take the measures in isolation for the effect to be had. We have to look at the measures together in order to achieve the synergistic effect. The IPCC is most concerned about the complaints. From my personal point of view, now for the 400 or so complaints, these measures could have minimized these complaints, because we have all these complaints in front of us, and these measures should have reduced the complaints like 721 case. If PPRB could do what they said they would do today, and if the members of the public would understand that the police are already dealing with it and they don't have to call through, or if the public realize that there is a finite amount of resources, they would understand the number of complaints could have been reduced. And these initiatives would be conducive to reducing complaints. Should complaints come through, these initiatives would enable us to handle them. At least we have the set of guidelines, whether the officer is doing this right, it would be sufficiently clear. So from the complaints, from the initiatives, we can know what happened. The gentleman speaking through. I'd like to put a question in Chinese again. Now, for the taser, it has been it's being tried out. At this point in time, do you think that an additional weapon for the police would be good for society? But as I said to the lady from RTHK, it's not a good thing to weaponize the police. It is a good thing to use minimum force. So the police principle is to use minimum force. So what they are looking for in terms of tools would be the minimum use of force. And that's the guiding principle. Whether they have procured any taser, I don't really know, because I wasn't told about it. But from my understanding, every time they use the enforcement tools, they will need a bit of time to verify. They will not be mass procure the tool. I think they are still establishing the case, and if they have got the case established, then we will communicate with them. But as I said, we have conducted our studies regarding the use of taser from around the world. And there are specific circumstances in which they can be used. They are not used in a widespread manner. There will be specific guidelines for the frontline officers in the use of the taser, so that they will be able to comply with all these guidelines. At this point in time, I think it's premature to talk about it. Thank you all very much, and thank you, the IPCC representatives. Thank you.